if you're watching this video, then I'm sure you know who Mike Tango Whiskey is. He's a guy who started on YouTube the middle of last year. He's had some pretty good success with his channel. He's growing. He's got some good quality content. And he says that his content is geared towards the 68 percenters, the ones in the meaty part of the bell curve. He's not a tier 1 tactical ninja at the 16% fringe, and he's not a woodsman bushcrafting survivalist at the other 16% end of the spectrum, which make up the 32% outside of the 68 percenters. But is the 68% a real thing? Is he correct? Is that really a faction that makes up people in the preposphere? Or is he really just a turd on the carpet? I don't know. Let's talk about it and see what we can figure out about the 68% business. Okay, so let's look at this from a realistic standpoint. We have a guy who works a white-collar job, lives in suburbia, drives a minivan, has 8 children, a wife, a home, and he says he's into prepping, and for all intents and purposes, he seems to be that kind of person. He certainly has a lot of the gear to prove it. He's got 50 backpacks and 100 axes and tools hanging on the wall. But what is a 68 percenter really? And is a 68 percenter a real thing? Now, I know a lot of people who live in suburbia who are preppers, self-reliant people, but they don't turn on the switch when they want to prep and turn it off when they don't want to prep. The people that I work with and that I've trained and consulted with, they live the lifestyle 24/7 because they're aware that we don't have any foreknowledge of when a situation can happen, an SHTF, where the shite hits the fan. Now, Mike came up with an acronym, T.O.T.C, or turd on the carpet, that is an event that's lesser than shite hit the fan. But what is shite hits the fan? I mean, is that really the extreme of incidents, or does that encompass things that happen to you or I, and in that moment, it is shite hit the fan? You know, a car accident. If you get in a head-on collision or T-boned or rear-ended, that's a shite hits the fan. That's SHTF. Because in the moment, that's pretty drastic. You got to make sure you're okay, and if you have any passengers, are they okay? Are you going to be able to drive away from that collision, or are you going to have to call a tow truck? I mean, that is an SHTF event. Or maybe you're caught out when severe snowstorm in the wintertime, and are you going to be able to make it home? Or are you going to be able to make it out of your driveway to go where you need to go? That's a SHTF event. So I don't really know that there is a T.O.T.C difference from SHTF. I don't think there is. And if you're going to be in the preposphere, you really need to have that switch turned on 24/7. I've grown up in that mentality my entire life since I was a child. Used to drive my mom and my aunt crazy because I was always very independent, self-sufficient. And I didn't want other people's help. I wanted to learn from people, wanted to learn all I could, absorb like a sponge. And I always sought out the best people to learn from. But I needed to do things on my own. I needed to be independent. And I've been independent, like I said, my entire life. I've been a self-reliant person since I've been a small child. I learned early how to cook. I learned how to do laundry. I learned how to run a vacuum, clean toilets, clean sinks, wash dishes. I mean, that was part of my routine at my aunt's house. She watched me because my mom was a single mom, and so my aunt would watch me during the day, and when my uncle would get home, a lot of times we'd have dinner before my mom got there. I'd have to wash the dishes. My cousin, who was like my older brother that I grew up with, we took turns. One day he would wash and I would dry, and then I would wash and he would dry. We'd switch back and forth, but that was our job. It was my job to help my aunt clean the house when I was there. She taught me. She was one of the first ones to teach me how to cook, and then my mom taught me. So I've been this way my entire life. I wanted to be self-reliant. I didn't want to have to depend on other people for what I needed in my life. And that's been, like I said, again, that's been that way since I've been a little boy. So I don't know that you can be a 68%er, that you can turn it off. You need to be on point, especially when you have children and a wife and whoever else might be with you when you're out somewhere, because we don't know when a disaster is going to strike. With the way things are going in this country, if you look white, you could be attacked at any time. I, for one, am not going to be a victim to these loonies that are running around, these mentally ill rainbow hair freaks that could attack me at any time for no provocation other than the color of my skin or the way that I look, or, you're a white male, so, oh my God, you're, toxic masculinity, and you're this. I mean, we have to be on point all the time. I can't stress that enough. Situational, environmental awareness, which is a video I'm going to do in depth talking about those. So I don't know that the 68%ers are a real thing. I'm sorry to say, I think people that identify like that are people that somewhat walk around with their head in the sand. They're thinking that nothing will really happen, but, maybe just in case maybe I'll get some gear, and I'm sorry, but having gear does nothing. I'm not a bag guy. I don't walk around with a bob or an inch or, a get home bag. I don't carry any of that stuff. I do have a very small bag like this, and all this has in it is a jump starter for if the vehicle doesn't start, I can get myself started and going. It has a mini air compressor if I have problems with a tire, and it has my radio. That's it. And this is going to become a radio bag, but everything else that I need, it's on me at all times and not in a pack. I don't want to be obtrusive. I don't want to draw attention to people. I carry what I need on me and in pockets that I could possibly need no matter where I am, so that if I need to get in or out of some place, I can. It's that simple. So I really think that he's got good intentions, and like I said, he's got some good content. He makes some very valid points, and a lot of his content has given me food for thought as far as furthering my own knowledge base of self-reliance and preparedness. But I don't really believe that there is such a thing as a 68%er. I think you're either on point, you're full-time, or you're not. And I know people are probably going to disagree with me in the comments, and that's fine. But if you walk around with the thought, like I've heard from so many people, oh, that'll never happen to me, until it does. And I've heard people that things have happened to, and then they said, well, I never thought it would happen to me. Nobody wants to think anything bad's going to happen to them, but it does. It happens. I mean, look at people that are feeling fine. Next thing you know, they have a stroke, or they have a myocardial infarction, otherwise known as a heart attack, or they become diabetic when they weren't. You don't think anything's going to happen to you, but you sure should be ready, because you're not invincible. None of us are invincible. But being prepared gives you the best chance to not be taken down or taken out. And I think a 68%er, if there are, because I read a lot of the comments of guys that are saying, oh yeah, I agree with what you're saying, I feel the same way. Well, I think you're kind of walking around with your head in the sand, and you're not really into preparedness. You want to play like you're playing a game of Monopoly at preparedness, but you're not really prepared. You're not really putting your heart into being prepared. You're just kind of dabbling in it, kind of playing. And this is in no way to disparage Mike in any way, shape, or form. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I'm trying to show the perspective of thinking that you can be a part-time prepper. That's not realistic. You either are or you aren't. It is that simple. Because look how many times we've had people who, after a mass shooting, have been interviewed and said, well, I never, when I went in the store, I never dreamed that someone would come in and start opening fire. Because you can't know that. You can't put yourself in the minds of people that are mentally ill. It's that simple. We can never understand a person who's mentally ill. And so at that point, you're one of the sheep that's caught off guard with your head in the sand. When you go into a situation like that, something does happen, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I didn't think it was going to happen. None of us do. None of us want it to. I certainly don't want it to, but I'll tell you what, I'm prepared for it. When I go in stores or restaurants, I'm constantly wargaming. I know where the exits are. I know the best place. If someone walked in and did this, I could put myself there. I find all the best places for concealment and cover. I want to know. I want to have the best advantage in the chance that somebody goes off their rocker that day and decides that now's going to be the time when they're just going to start riddling the place. I don't want to be caught off guard. I have one precious gift of life, and it is precious to me. I only get one ride on this merry-go-round of life. Once it's done, I can't get back in line for another ticket and get a second ride. It doesn't work that way. So I'm going to protect that ride. I'm going to enjoy that ride, and I'm going to protect that ride the best way I know how. And that's being 100% in on being self-aware, self-reliant, and prepared. Now, you can be a Tier 1 tactical ninja. That doesn't mean you have to walk around in black BDUs or having a plate carrier on with 15, 20 mags in it or anything like that. You can be that without having to have all the gear. Gear are just things. Your mind, your mindset. That's number one. And if your mindset is 68%er, well, I think you're kind of on the losing slope. You need to be in that 32%, either the 16% at one end or the 16% at the other, depending on where you live. If you're more rural, you may be more of the bushcraft woodsman survivalist. And I hate that word survivalist. That's such a stupid word because it's not even true. Or you live in the city and you might be the Tier 1 tactical ninja, as Mike calls them. But you can be those things without having to walk around looking like, G.I. Joe all the time. It is possible. That's where I live. That's where I am. That's where my mind is. I am the Tier 1 tactical ninja, but I don't walk around looking like it, and I don't walk around acting like it. But I'm ready. I'm ready, set, go. Yeah, you betcha. I'll jump into the fray as soon as it kicks off. And I stay on point. I keep my light switch on. I don't ever flip that switch off, because if you flip it off, that's going to be the time when you're going to be caught in something that you don't want to be caught in. So anyway, yeah, leave your comments down below. I'd be interested to see what you think. And this is in no way to disparage Mike. I think he's a solid guy. I think he's a guy that I could sit down and have a conversation with and break bread with, and I think we'd get along. And I'm hoping to do a live with him so that we on our together can discuss this and talk about, have a debate and discourse about this back and forth. So, but I look forward to your comments. And if you go hard on the disparagement, and trying to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, I will delete those comments. I'll tell you right now, because this is to build the community, to build people up, and to make things better for people to understand what being self-reliant and prepared is about. And I too, hate the fantasy and fallacy that I see on YouTube with a lot of preparedness channels. They go way overboard. There's guys out there that have tens of thousands of dollars of gear, and I'm not in a military unit. I'm not gonna be, assaulting a castle, or some foreign dignitary. That's not what we're about. This is America. This is the realistic. Too many guys that have come from the military, they still want to live in that world of being an operator. A lot of them that were special officers, special forces, they still want to live in that world, even though that's not the reality of how America is. So I think we need to have a frank, honest discussion, and I think we need to have frank, honest views about how we need to be as preppers or self-reliant people. So again, leave me your comments, and don't forget, if you got something out of this, please like, share, and subscribe. And also don't forget to keep planning, training, preparing, and defending. We'll see you in the next one. I thank you for watching.